Hello everyone, CritCrab here with another story. This one actually really puts the horror in horror story. Jokes aside, we're absolutely blasting off to 500, and in case you didn't know, at 500 subscribers, I'll be giving one of you a set of dice. Details are in the Discord and the description. Anyways, without further ado, roll post. I've been into RPGs since I was but a youngster back in the early 80s. Since then, I've had the good fortune to have been involved in all sorts of projects and games ranging from tabletop to online and everywhere in between. For several years, 1993 to 2002, I, along with a small crew of hardcore mates, ran LARPs in the UK. I have a fair recollection of tales from those days, ranging from the sublime to the ridiculous, from the harmless to the awful, but this event sticks in my mind as the one that made my blood run coldest. We had a regular private access site that we used to run our LARP campaigns, and our events would often draw in excess of 100 participants, usually 50 to 60 players, and around the same in monsters. People who came in for free and got to be our NPCs and cannon fodder. Usually the events would be 3 or 4 days long, but occasionally we'd run longer events of 5 or 6 days. Most of the time we knew the vast majority of attendees, but as we were open to a larger community of players, we'd inevitably have a few new faces at any given time. Gate control was relatively strict, and it was hard to sneak in, but it wasn't unheard of for people to do so. Additionally, camping areas were defined by their function. In-character camp area, for the brave souls who wanted their game 24/7 time in. Out-of-character camping, for the people who preferred a quiet, threat-free night, or had children with them, and monster camping for our crew and volunteers. These campsites were centered around a rough wooden barn structure that we called the Dutch barn, though it was really just an open-fronted large shed, and the size itself was surrounded by scrublands, woodlands, and hundreds of acres of sand dunes. Middle of nowhere, really. Anyways, during one of our Easter 5-day events in the middle of the night, an extra tent appeared in the camp. Nothing unusual there. People turned up late, fairly regularly. What was odd was that the tent wasn't in any of the usual camping areas. It was in the middle of the path leading to the barn, slap in the middle of the site's main thoroughfare. Ah well, we thought. Someone clearly turned up in the middle of the night and had pitched their tent mistakenly in the dark. Oh, what a silly goose, we thought. We'll have to track down the owner and get them to move. The day's gaming proceeded, and the ref event team asked around to see if anyone could identify the owner of the tent, but no one could. How very strange, we all thought, but we kept asking and checking until it became apparent that we seemed to have asked everyone in the game. Time to check the tent then. Now, we don't normally go rooting through someone else's tent. It's their private property and not something we would do, but things were starting to seem a little off about this whole situation, so we opened it. Inside was a single blanket and a small plastic box containing a toothbrush. Nothing else. No ID, no food, no LARP kit, nothing. The mystery was getting deeper, but we had a game to run and lots to do, so we left the odd tent where it was and got on with the scenario. The rest of the day and the night that followed passed without incident. Or so we thought. As soon as the day began, I had 2 of our regular players approach me out of character to report a very strange incident they had experienced during the night. In the small hours of the morning, they heard an odd screeching sound somewhere in the woods near the camp. Again, this isn't unusual for us. There are a few fair instances of local wildlife that screech, and, well, it's a LARP. Screeching happens in the woods at night. The players, being used to the site and our LARP style, and being camped in the in-character area, had made the assumption that we'd set an encounter in the woods and headed out to investigate. Following the source of the noise, they told me, they finally came across a strange figure in the gloom of night. The figure appeared to be naked and appeared to be trying to hide from them. As they approached, the figure screeched repeatedly and then started to threaten them, saying they'd be cut if they got any closer. Kinda weirded out, the players retreated to their own tents before coming to ask me if that was an encounter we had set up. It was not. The rest of the event, however, passed without anything else strange happening, and we put it down to someone playing hijinks in the woods. Again, it wasn't unknown for interlopers to try and mess with our game, for other members of the public to be out in the wilderness around the site, or even for our own crew to go off on one and try and do their own thing during the game. But a day later, as the event came to a close, things started to become horribly clear. The game had been a good one. The weather was sunny and everyone was taking down their tents, packing their cars, and heading home. Being the organizers, my crew and I were usually the last to leave the site late in the day, and it was when we were finally packing our own kit and the event kit that we realized this strange tent was still there, pitched in the pathway. At this point, my senior referee said that he saw someone he didn't recognize emerge from it a few months ago and head towards the shower block that was attached to the back of the barn. Being the dude in charge, I headed to the shower to try and finally solve the mystery. There, at the sink, brushing his teeth, was a perfectly normal-looking middle-aged man, but he was mostly naked, wearing nothing but a towel. "Hey man," I said, "the event's over. I need you to clear down your tent and leave the site." "No," he said. "I'll stay." "You can't," I replied. "The site's closing and we have to leave." "No," he said, turning towards me. There was something in his eyes that made all of the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and a little voice in my head said, "GTFO now." "Okay, no worries, mate," I said, and beat a hasty retreat. A swift conversation with my team, and we decided to call the police. We weren't sure what we could do, and this guy was freaking us all out now. At the very least, we clearly had a trespasser on a private site. It was hard to explain to the police, and even harder to explain what on earth the problem was when they turned up at the site. But they went to the guy who was still brushing his teeth in the shower block. There was a minor scuffle before the police officers brought the guy out forcefully. He was not happy. "Cut, cut, cut," he was shouting between the screeches. The police had been looking for this guy, it turned out. He had absconded from a secure home in the area and was known to be a danger to the public. And he'd been here on our LARP for nearly 2 days at least. I think we got lucky, but even writing this down now makes my skin crawl. End post. Reading through this, I'm just waiting for someone to X-post it to r/nosleep. Seriously though, this whole story seems like the prologue or intro to a horror movie. Anyways, as of the making of this video, we're 315 crabs strong out of the 500 we need to get to the dice giveaway, so if you haven't already, please do leave me a like and subscribe for a chance to win. Of course, if you already did both before I asked, then do I have good news for you. Some weirdo on the internet claiming to be a crab thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, so if you're the type of person to leave likes on Reddit videos, you're gonna love this. Anyways, see you next time.